Well, welcome everybody to Anxiety Simplified podcast. I'm Joanne Williams, and we're here to share some compelling strategies that I've used in my 30 years as a licensed mental health professional with my clients with success that I hope will help you just a little bit, to have a less anxiety and a little happier, healthier life and more confidence. And today we have a very special guest, Stephen Marks, and I'm going to introduce him in just 1 minute, but I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about today first. Stephen has written a book. He's the author of Weight Loss Habit, the no BS, no gimmicks sort of easy way to lose weight and keep it off. He started his childhood wealthy and then suddenly switched to being raised by a poor single mother working nights after his attorney father got caught stealing from his clients. Stephen has a BA in economics from Georgetown and an MFA in screenwriting from USC, University of Southern California. And he splits his time between Los Angeles and Tennessee with his wife, an ever-changing amount of foster kittens. That's when I got my two little kittens from. He vlogs about making self-improvement easier at selfhelpingyourself.com. And I'll put his book link in our show notes today too. But he grew up overweight. Then in his mid-20s, figured out an effective strategy for losing weight and lost 60 pounds and has kept it off since. These are some of the methods we're going to talk about today where he really actually lost 30% of his body weight and has kept it off for 20 years without exercise while still eating the foods he enjoys and reducing his anxiety rather than worsening it, like some of the current diet methods that we're going to talk a little bit about. Some of the summary of the show today, we're going to talk about lifelong weight loss for people who struggle, self-improvement made easy. Why is this program different? That's what I really want to know more about, Steve. Why are diets so ineffective for most people? And what's different here about Stephen's book, The Weight Loss Habit? And we have a question. Why is weight loss particularly challenging for people with anxiety? So welcome, Stephen. And so please introduce yourself a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about your own experience with weight loss and why you wrote this book.
Okay, so yeah, I grew up obese. Growing up, I struggled with depression and anxiety. Excuse me. This was before children were really being diagnosed with mental health struggles. So I didn't really get medicated or get the help I needed at the time, and I think I kind of self-medicated with food. And I also had just a really slow metabolism and really bad eating habits, so that didn't help. Also, I was kind of a fat, awkward, depressed nerd, which made me a target for bullies, and then that just kind of created a whole cycle that made everything worse. So I tried to lose weight a lot and always failed.
As a kid even, or later on?
Yeah, as a kid and as a teenager, young adult, I tried many times. I think everyone who is overweight has tried many times. And then in my early 20s, I kind of stumbled onto a strategy that worked. And I didn't even really understand why it worked until later, but it did work. And then over 8 months, I dropped all this weight and I've kept it off since. So, I think it's something where, it's losing weight is so hard for most people. Most people fail at their diets, and even the ones who succeed, 95% of them gain the weight back. So I think it's something where, I was one of the lucky few who managed to figure out something that worked, and I want to share that with others and help other people, be happier with their bodies and healthier, and kind of live a more fulfilling life, and not have to kind of suffer and struggle.
Absolutely. And, and I think, you spoke about anxiety being part of this. How are you seeing that anxiety exacerbates, makes this worse, or, maybe is part of the cause? I don't know. How do you look at that?
Well, I think that, if you look at the way most diets work, I think my wife, who struggles with anxiety, her anxiety is a lot worse than mine. She kind of calls it a wall of awful.
Ah,
And I think that most diets, they kind of just put the way they work, just puts up this wall of awful that kind of, it's almost designed to make people with anxiety fail. There's shame and guilt about eating the wrong foods. There's all this time and effort that you have to put into it. There's kind of an all or nothing thinking where, if you screw up once, that's it, the diet's over, you failed, give up. There's sort of the aspect of self-deprivation. You can't eat the things you enjoy. You have to rely on superhuman willpower, which, if you had that much willpower, you wouldn't need the diet in the first place. And, you're always having to make these hard decisions where there's pressure, where you feel like, oh, all your future health and happiness is riding on this. And, it's just all these things where someone with anxiety it's so much harder for them. And, with that wall of awful, like, it's just the much easier thing to do is just kind of give up on the diet so you don't have to deal with that.
yeah. Kind of give in. It's all bad anyways, and nothing's going to change. And I really kind of hear depression symptoms in that I'm overwhelmed and there's nothing I can do about it, hopeless. Yeah. So tell me how your approach to the weight loss habit is different from the traditional ones, or the ones we just talk about that do look at self um, deprivation, or that willpower needs to be a part of it. Tell us more about your approach.
So you want to get to the point where eating healthy is a habit, where it's something you do by default without any of those anxiety triggering struggles. But how do you get from here to there? That's the hard part. You can't form a habit by forcing yourself to do something that makes you miserable. That's just not going to work, and it's especially unrealistic for people with anxiety. And that's one of the reasons most diets just don't work. A habit, especially a sustainable habit, and that's something, if you're going on a sustainable habit, has to be something that you're willing to do for the rest of your life, which means it needs to be easy and pleasant, because a diet isn't something you do for a limited time. It's something you have to keep up for life, or else you'll gain the weight back. So, a bad idea to do something that makes you miserable to try to lose weight, because you'll inevitably quit. So you have to find ways to lose weight that are compatible with your nature, that you can keep up, that you don't hate. So the book is about kind of finding the easy ways and the struggle-free ways to build up this habit of healthy eating. And kind of the most important habit in the book is to just simply take a moment to think before you eat, make, or buy food, and then just make a rational decision about what and how much to eat. And then the most important part is to celebrate and take pride in your good decision. And it's the celebrating and taking pride that is the really fundamental part, because you need to give yourself that reward. Replace the physical reward of the tasty food and the dopamine hit and the sugar rush with the mental reward of pride and being smug and saying, hey, I'm doing this great thing. And, in terms of making good decisions, a good decision doesn't necessarily mean eating nothing but kale and, exercising for 3 hours a day. It can be a good decision to eat unhealthy food if it makes you really happy, as long as you're doing it in moderation. And it's a good decision to eat a smaller serving of an unhealthy food than you otherwise would. So, it's okay to eat fast food. I eat fast food all the time. I just get the small burger with no fries and no sugary soda. And, that small burger is like 400 or 500 calories instead of, getting 1,000-calorie burger with 600-calorie large fries and 500-calorie soda. So, that's kind of the fundamental part, is you make it easy on yourself and then celebrate to give yourself that reward when you do things right, instead of the bad approach where you're kind of punishing yourself and making it hard on yourself.
Yeah. It sounds very conscious, that you're very aware or get aware of what you're going to do and think first and then apply it. And because I do think a lot of us unconsciously, not being aware, that we just shovel food in. I'm in a hurry. I just got to get this done. I got to get my whatever done, so it's not very thoughtful. So it sounds like you're really talking about being much more thoughtful or thinking through my decisions about it. And you know what, I wonder about the gap time between when you start and when you start to see results. I think that's the hardest time to keep that motivation or keep that good thinking going, because it's like, okay, is this going to work? Am I going to whatever? It just starts the other doubts. And so it sounds like you're saying you really need to motivate yourself with your own good thoughts and celebrate what you are doing each day, each meal, each bite, or each whatever, to keep you going through maybe that gap time.
Yeah. And I think that if you're focusing on sustainable habits you can keep up for life, realistically, you won't be losing more than 1 or 2 pounds a week. It's not something where, if you're going to a boot camp, if you're going on some sort of starvation diet, you'll see results faster, but then as soon as you stop, you'll gain the weight back. So, with my method, you're losing the weight, kind of slow and steady, but then it stays off. So, it's something where you see the results slower, but you are seeing results and you are making progress. You're seeing each week you're 1 or 2 pounds lower. So I mean, if you start off obese, 1 or 2 pounds maybe doesn't feel like a huge difference, but when it keeps happening every week, that adds up.
Oh, absolutely. And even small things can add up through the year. Just taking that walk. It doesn't have to be a long walk, but just doing a little something. Again, I think there was one study I saw, just walking your dog consistently can actually lose 14 pounds a year. And so maybe it's a little over, a pound a month, but just that little bit can add up. So I can kind of see how this could be like that too. Just little changes, maybe not that cookie. Me tonight, but I don't feel like it. I'll have it tomorrow night. So you're not saying you never do, but maybe not tonight. Can add up. And tell me what you have found or thought of as good ways to tell yourself and motivate, because I can hear people starting to talk, well, how come you did that way? Why didn't you eat less? And, or just some really negative self-talk. Have you found any easier ways maybe to give yourself that celebration or that better self-talk?
I think that sometimes I slip up, sometimes I make bad decisions.
Right.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
It's just I kind of say, okay, the past is the past. I can't change it. I'll just do my best going forward. So, instead of beating myself up, I just, will say, okay, that's done. And, kind of one of the rules I put in the book is never eat two big meals in a row. So if you overeat once, you kind of say, okay, well, tomorrow I'll have a light lunch. And, that's a good way to kind of get yourself back on track and give yourself that reward of praise soon afterwards.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I don't know, I was doing some reflecting, and I did this flyer, if you want to call it that, but it's like 10 things I wish somebody had told me when I was younger. And one of the very first things on it is find a cheerleader for you in life. And, if you have a support person that can go, yeah, you look what you did do today. If it's your husband, wife, sister, brother, whomever, in your household that go, you did that really well today. Or if you don't have anybody, be your own cheerleader to say, good job. And like you said, be kind. To yourself. And one of the exercises I will give clients sometimes to even start noticing what they might say to themselves, because a lot of people have just done this for so long, they don't even notice anymore what they say. First thing in the morning when you get up and you look in the mirror to brush your teeth or whatever, what is the first thing you say to yourself? Is it kind? Oh, you look great. Or is it harsh? And so it's a really good way to just see right then and there how you are presenting to yourself, and maybe look at that as an easier way. Oh, wow, would I say that to my friend? Absolutely not. Then don't say it to yourself. Be kind. So that's a really good one. I think too, is to really look at, because you sounded like you were so kind to yourself if you got off track. But you do sound like you calorie count.
I don't.
A little,
I
maybe.
I don't do it formally. I don't
Yeah.
keep a food journal. That's something
Yeah.
I actually recommend against because
Okay.
I think that you want to do everything possible to make it easy.
Okay.
So you don't want to add extra overhead and extra burden. I kind of mentally calorie count or sort of keep a rough count, but it's more just in an individual meal or an individual piece of food. I'll look at how many calories that is and decide whether or not that's a good idea. I also I mentioned I have an extremely low metabolism. I typically need to eat like 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. So I that's something where I do need to I do need to be very careful about what I eat, but more so than most people. But again, it's not something where I'm adding up the calories for the day. It's just sort of I'll look at what I'm about to eat before I eat it. And that's something I'd say that, again, I try and do whatever I can to make it easy. So
Good.
another thing is, I think frozen food is a really great tool for losing weight, which is something that I think kind of the gurus will tell you, like, no, have all natural, fresh food made from scratch. And it's like, well, do you have 3 hours a day extra to cook everything? Who does? Frozen food, it's, they tell you exactly how many calories. You just pop it in the microwave. It doesn't take any work. It's unless you're a good cook, it's probably tastes better than what you could make. I mean, I'm certainly not a good cook. It's better than what I could make. So, I think that's another thing where it's just you want to do what you can to make it easy.
I agree. And they've really made some of the frozen meals really healthier and
Yeah.
tasty. And you're
Mhm.
right. And they're pretty inexpensive, some of them. So it is make it easier. And I think we all have counted calories enough. So we have a very good idea,
Yeah.
anyways,
Mhm.
without looking at everything. Something I used to do or started doing, because I used to be a real chocoholic.
Mhm.
And I found it, I just cannot tolerate sugar. My body
Mhm.
just says absolutely no. But I love chocolate. And I got where, like, especially going out to a restaurant, if I just had one bite
Mhm.
of some chocolatey, that was enough. That was good enough to satisfy that whatever feeling or urge that I had for that chocolate. And I've kept that up for years because it's almost like being satisfied
Yeah.
and stopping there
Mhm.
instead of just wanting to continue to push it in just because it's in front of you. It's just like enjoy what you've got. And if that one bite is enough, or maybe two, but I cannot eat a whole anything anymore. And it's really sustained me, but I always enjoy it. And that's one of the keys I found too. Enjoy what you do eat.
Mhm. Yeah, and another tip I have in the book is take smaller bites.
Mm.
It's a small bite tastes the same as a big bite. So like instead of putting a handful of M&Ms in your mouth, put one M&M in your mouth, and eat it slowly, and just have a few M&Ms instead of the whole bag. And then you're consuming way less calories, but you still get the same enjoyment out of it.
Yeah. You know what I've been doing too? This is along that line. A smaller fork.
Yeah, I actually have used a smaller spoon as one of the pieces of advice. Also, smaller plates,
Yeah.
because it,
Visually.
yeah, visually, it will make you take less food.
Yeah. And it looks like you've got more. Yeah. I mean, some of these are just kind of practical ways that you have found
Mhm.
to reach a goal.
Mhm.
And do you recommend a scale weighing yourself?
Yeah, I do. I think not every day, but I think weekly, it's good to kind of see your progress, especially because I think that you do want to know that you're accomplishing something,
Hmm.
and you know and if you're not, you also want to know, okay, I guess I need to change something. So i do think I don't think weighing yourself every day is a good
Mm,
idea, because there's just going to be natural fluctations that
yeah.
you know
Or
that
disappointment and
yeah.
discouragement.
But I think
Ah,
weekly it having a weekly weigh-in is a good idea. And if you're doing things right, it will be a happy, exciting moment, because you'll see that you've lost another pound or two.
and then celebrate it, like you're
Yeah.
saying. That's good.
Hmm.
I have not. I have chosen not to use a scale, and instead how my clothes fit,
Hmm.
and keep that as my guide.
Yeah.
Um, you know, because I don't know. I don't know. I kind of have an aversion to
Hmm.
seeing that number somehow, because as you age, things do change,
Hmm.
and I just feel like I like to see how I look, how I feel in these clothes. And that is really what I want to continue to focus on. And I think everybody may feel different about what their goal may be. Maybe it is just fit into those pants again and feel good in them, or feel like you carry yourself differently. But all of these are just kind of simplified, which I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
Hmm.
Keep our lives have gotten so complicated. And it does feel like this is something that's sustainable and that is attainable.
Right.
And if you just follow, what kind of last things would you say that you have really found that helped you the most?
So I think that, let's see, there's a few things. So I'd say switching to diet soda is really just the easiest thing you can do for your health. It takes zero effort, zero cost, and will have a huge impact. I think that finding lower calorie substitutes for higher calorie foods that, like get that sort of fake ice cream where it's 300 calories a pint, or make coffee and put sugar-free Torani syrup and some creamer in it instead of getting a Frappuccino, which will also save money. Doing things like that, that makes a big difference for your health, and you don't feel like you're sacrificing anything. Or, okay, there's a small difference. Yes, Ben and Jerry's tastes better than the fake ice cream, but it's still pretty good. So you aren't sacrificing much. And something else that I've found, which actually learned about this in the book Super Better by Jane McGonigal, which I highly recommend that book. But visual pattern matching games are like Tetris or Candy Crush or doing a jigsaw puzzle, or I don't know if you're familiar with the game Set, but they basically hijack your brain, and they're great. They're actually great for fighting anxiety, and they're also great for fighting cravings for food. So if you just, are craving some food, it's bad for you, it's a bad idea, play Tetris for a few minutes or Candy Crush or something. You probably want to set an alarm to stop because they hijack your brain and, are so addictive, and you'll lose track of time. But, that's a good tip that, to keep yourself from doing things that are bad ideas. And it's also something that, if you're suffering from anxiety, is something that can help with the anxiety.
Absolutely. Boy, kill two with one stone. It makes me think about, I don't use sugar, but I like flavor. I really like strong flavors. So I've even added vanilla in my coffee, or sugar-free stevia. It comes now in chocolate and caramel. There's a lot of different flavors. And I found that very satisfying. And so, so there's a lot of options that you could look at that can give you that satisfaction. That really tastes good. Kind of a flavor that might, instead of the caramel syrup, maybe a few drops of vanilla or something, or, on it might satisfy it.
And also chewing gum is great.
Oh, yes.
Because it's like, you physically can't eat while you're chewing gum, and you kind of feel the flavor in your mouth, so you don't have the craving for food.
Or I've used it for dessert.
Yeah.
It's a great, it does have calories. I was always surprised. It's like, this has got calorie, but it, has a few.
It's like 5 calories.
It was, 5 or 10, but it doesn't matter. But it's a real good substitute, I found. And like, you're right, it keeps you busy a little bit. Yeah. Well, wonderful. These are really kind of helpful, but easy, and anybody can do skill building, because what you're doing is building some new habits in your life. And I think that every daily thing you're doing, it is accumulating towards good, or it's accumulating to something that's not so good. So why not start some new habits that get you where you want to go in a year? Because we're going to all be doing something anyway. So why not choose some different things? And it sounds like your book, and I'm going to name it here, The Weight Loss Habit by Stephen Ray Marks. You can see it here in the picture. If you're on YouTube, you can see. But and you can find it. I'm going to put a link for Amazon in here to find it. Your website also, Self-Helping Yourself. And you had an offer also, didn't you?
Yeah, so there's a free excerpt of the book for your listeners. So if you go to selfhelpingyourself.com/anxiety simplified, you can download the section of the book called Eating Fast Food for Fun and Weight Loss, which talks about the strategies to use while eating fast food and still lose weight. And it actually has tables of the low calorie options at all of America's top fast food restaurants. I went and did a bunch of research and put that into the book to make things convenient and easy for you. So you can download that excerpt for free. That's at selfhelpingyourself.com/anxiety simplified.
Great. Oh, everybody go get that, because again, that's something you can kind of look at quickly, maybe leave it in the car.
Yeah.
So that when you're ready to go through the drive-through on a late night or something, oh yeah, what could I do and still feel good about myself? That's really great. Well, thank you, Steve. That was really helpful, and I appreciate that, so much. And so thank you for being here, everyone, and listening.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and really thank you for coming. I really appreciate that. I think this is going to be really helpful. And you will put a notice out in your newsletter that you do, or your blog every week, so that people will even know when it's coming out too. Right? All right. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. And please support our podcast by rating, reviewing, and subscribing to show your support. And to remember to use and practice. That's the main thing here. The skill that we shared today to feel better about yourself in life. And go to our website, anxietysimplified.net, for more on how to get a certified emotional support animal or a psychiatric service dog today. And remember to share the love. Bye for now.